Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm SG Alien, aka Chris Armstrong, and this video is all about mining, the setup, the software, the equipment, and the rough cost of it. But it's a video which is slightly different. It's for you, the total beginner that wants to jump in and basically get going, but without all the complicated software needs and sort of programming skills. It's literally go out, buy the stuff, set it up, install X, Y, and Z, and get going, and then leave it alone. Isn't that what we want? That is the future of crypto, but we need it today. So that's what this video is. All right, let's go through the equipment. Okay, so we're going to start off by going through each component part that we noobs need to get in order to put all this together. Then I'll do a quick talk about how they roughly fit together, and then we'll move into the build. So guys, this is the motherboard. It is the Pro BioStar TB250-BTC. It is actually a motherboard designed for mining. So it has 6 GPU ports, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These things here, how do they differ from this? Well, they're designed so you put risers in, which allow you to elevate the GPUs. We'll come back to that shortly. I'll just show you the box very briefly so you can get a reference. Feel free to pause the video there. Okay, on top of that, what do we need? Well, you're going to need a CPU to manage the whole process. This is a brand new Intel Celeron. Cost me about 100 Singapore dollars, which is about 50 pounds. I'm not sure what it is in US. Don't know why it has such a big box, but it does. You'll also need some thermal paste to act as a gasket that will go between the CPU and this. This is a CPU cooler. This is a second-hand used CPU cooler. It's an Intel original. It's nothing special, as you can see, but once we've cleaned this off, we'll put the thermal paste on, and then the CPU will sit nicely on there on the board. Again, we'll come back to that. You also need risers for this. Now, we suggest risers to move the GPUs away from the board so that they can stay nice and cool, and you can move them into whichever configuration that you like. The power unit, very important. This is just one for demonstration purposes here. This is a 500 watt. I may use this just to power the board independently, but for my setup with the two 8GB GPUs and the motherboard, I'll be using a 1000 watt. I'll expand that to use this just for the board, and then a 1000 watt, which I also have once I get to 4+ GPUs. Speaking of such, this is a Radeon R9. This is an 8GB, bit of a beastie here. I've got 2 of them. They're ranging around about 400, 500 Singapore dollars at the minute, about 200 to 350 British pounds. I suggest that you use 8GB because it sort of future-proofs you. Why? If you're mining Ethereum and you have 4GB or less, it may not mine at all. In fact, if you have less than 4GB, 3 minus, it won't start mining at all. So remember that, guys. Also, you're going to need some RAM. This is just 4 gigs. Again, a nice new one, just because I've got a great deal on Carousel here in Singapore. A 64GB USB, so it's bootable from the USB, and I'm going to install it onto the USB Windows 10. I've also got one with Windows 7. I've got 2 boards, so I'm going to try and see which it runs better. And then to save me headache, heartache, and because I'm still, in essence, a noob, I'm going to be installing MinerGate. That's Miner and Gate. Squish them together. Download that software. It works fairly well. Has its issues just like anything else, but again, with this learning process, for the quickest possible means, use MinerGate. Now moving on to the case, as we're not using a desktop case because you can't fit more than 2 GPUs typically, and because it would overheat within a relatively short period of time, we're going to build our own. This is some industrial, I guess, cladding or strut. If you've ever seen in the supermarket, the shelving, this is essentially the same thing. So I just found this from a local hardware store. I pointed to their shelving unit itself and said, I need some of this material to make a box, which is what I will do with this, and you'll see in the next segment. Now that's all the components that I have. Oh no, we're missing one out. I think maybe the riser itself. So this will attach to the bottom of the GPU, and then this here will attach into the board. So we'll go through that now. That's the next stage. So we'll grab the motherboard back. Here we go. Lovely jubbly. And I will just go through what fits where and how. So start very quickly, the RAM. This lovely shiny gold piece here fits into this yellow part up here. Okay, just one in there, 4 gigabytes. If you want to upgrade and get another 4, great, or 2 8s, that's fine as well, but it's not going to benefit you in the long run because you're not using it for processing anything. The GPU is doing all the work. For the riser, coming back here, so this here will fit nicely into here. What we'll typically have, this is actually quite a good board for demonstrating. The GPU, the connecting piece here, would normally fit into this yellow. So I'll bring it over so you get a bit of an angle here, and it would just fit in like so, and then sit. But you don't want that. Could you imagine having so many up against each other? And as you can see, it just wouldn't fit. So use a riser, and this fits into here, and this part here connects, let me just pop this down. This part here connects into here via USB, and then this fits onto the GPU. So this will then fit here. So it's essentially this is this yellow piece here, and you're elevating it away from the board so it sits much higher up in the air, as you'll see later on in the video. That allows for much more efficient cooling and doesn't let the parts die too soon, because with mining you're pushing everything to its limit 100% of the time. Alright, the CPU will go here. You remove this black part, lift the tensioner, you'll get your thermal paste, and this thermal paste will go on the bottom of here, so just on here, and then I'll apply a little bit of this maybe onto my heatsink. Once you've applied your thermal paste, guys, go over a little bit of a dab. You can put a bit more on, but people advise not to. But once you've done that, the CPU will be here, and you'll apply this on here. These 4 points will just go into these little holes here. Hopefully you can see that. Once you've done that, the last thing to do is to plug your power in. So you've got extra power boards here, so if you have 2 or more power as you grow your system, that is great. You can just use one power unit, one PSU, which can be 1200 to 1500, but those are very, very pricey. Some people advise just getting 2 500 watts for, say, 3 cards and the motherboard. Moving on from this now, I will put together the rack, and then we'll continue to build the rest of the board. Okay guys, so what I've done so far is construct a box. I fitted one of the GPUs. I've got this box in here. This is the second GPU's box, and what I'm going to do is actually use it to place the motherboard on top of until I get some sort of big board or something to put down here, and then that will lower it down even further. But I want to play with that depending on the distance the risers are going to give me. So for now, that's going to be fine sitting down there. So the next thing to do would be to fit the secondary GPU in just behind. So as you can see here, it's going to go in about here. And they're being fitted in with zip ties. Nice, simple and cheap. Keep it simple is the key. I've left these things on here just to show you, clearly on the video, instead of trying to search for the small bit of the zip tie. I'll clip these off. But it's essentially 2 loops, one at the top here and then one around the GPU casing. Same thing at the back, so hopefully you can see that. So I'll go ahead and I'll fit the next GPU in, then I'll put the riser cables on and I'll plug those onto the board. But I'll also go ahead and get the CPU ready to fit, and then I'll show you the thermal paste going on. Okay, so we're now at the point where I've fitted both GPUs to the rig itself, and one of the USBs I've already plugged in, just so you can see the sort of before and after. What you want to do is to note that one point is smaller than the next, and then you have a little piece which overhangs. This little overhang you want to have facing outwards, and of course you can't really mess it up unless you're plugging into the larger one there, as the yellow one is. So you just pop it in and gently wiggle it down until you hear an audible click. Okay, so you may not be able to hear that on the camera, but it's just a tiny little click. The next thing you want to do is break out your RAM. You want to look at which side it will go in, because one side is slightly longer than the other, and then marry it up on the RAM slots. So that's what these two slots are here. Also noting to open up your little lever here. So I've already done that. I'm just going to fit it down nice and gently and push down. Here we go, until it clicks in. So these will close on their own. There we go. Okay, so I was about to just take my used second-hand original Intel heatsink and give it a clean up before I fitted the CPU in, the brand new CPU in. And how I was going to explain that was, if you, in this case, have a used one, what you want to do is get something like lighter fluid or an official product from your local computer store. They'll have something they'll recommend, but lighter fluid, Zippo in this case, will do just fine. You'll apply it onto here and then just use a bit of paper towel and you can clean this up very, very nicely. Now, I was going to show you that process, but I've really just explained it. The reason why I'm not going through that now and then applying the thermal paste as I was going to, so I mentioned that in my parts at the very beginning, is simply because I got a bit of a surprise. I went to take my CPU out of the box to speed this up for you, and a hint for you guys that decide to buy one of these brand new, I do suggest that, because you're going to work the system hard and this is basically going to take care of it. And it's also an Intel Celeron, so a Celeron basically is very, very low power in comparison to the i5, i3 and i7. When I pop this out of the box, it turns out that this darn thing comes with a brand new Intel heatsink as well. All good and ready to go. And the wonderful thing is it also comes with the thermal paste. So the thermal paste, this stuff right here, this grey here, that's what this is. So it's already been applied. I actually touched it earlier and smudged it a little bit. So it's already done and ready. So that can go straight onto the CPU. So that's wonderful news for me as well, because it means that the fan's motor and bearing are brand new. And here we go, here is my brand new CPU. This is the first time I've literally bought and fitted a CPU, or just fitted a CPU full stop. So yeah, I probably should be doing this a little bit better, but I'm trying to do it in the same way that anyone else that's new to this would do this. I'm sure it's supposed to go in one way or the other, so I'll figure this out. So we've got to remove this little black thing, this little cover which comes with it, and I believe I've got to try and lift this tensioner. Bear with me guys, I have never done this ever. So it might take me a moment. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you just pull it out a little bit and lift it. And it looks like that. Aha, it all comes up together. So here we go. I'm going to find out whether I do this right or wrong. Now I don't really want to put any of my hands on here, which I've already done, so I'm actually going to have to clean this because your fingers have like a natural oil on them, plus the dirt in the surrounding area, so be careful of that. And this is the first time I've ever held a CPU, and silly bit of information is, it's damn heavy, man. I mean, for something of this size, it's ridiculously heavy. Anyway, useless bit of info. I have honestly no idea which way. Okay, so looking at this now, it can go one of two ways, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It's actually got this like oblong shape, and so is this here. So I'm going to take a risk and just fit it this way. Okay, this may be totally wrong. Let's see if it will sit in nicely. Okay, it does. Now what I'll do is I'll take it back out, and remember to be gentle at all times. If you don't force anything, there's a good chance you won't break anything. And there's little pins on here. I'll try and put it in this way. Okay, it won't go in this way, so it is made to fit one way. So there we go. Panic over, and you don't have to ask those questions in the comments. So, yeah, okay, right, that's sitting in nicely. Okay, so we'll pull down the cover, and then the retention arm. Wow, that's actually got a bit of beef to it. Okay, and then you put that under there. So now my CPU is fitted. I pray to God that I haven't ruined any of the pins and I've done it right. The next thing will be for me to actually fit this on here. Now, I've got my little cable here. These 4 pins, I believe, go through the holes on the motherboard. So I'll cut it here and then do that, because this is something you can work out on your own. Okay, so now I'm at the stage where I want to introduce the PSU, or power, the power unit, which is this lovely box back here. I came across a problem with the risers. So the risers have the blue cable, the USB 3 cable, which supplies all the data, but it also comes with a little power adapter. And I thought this was weird. Why do you need this when you've got all of these lovely big cables which go into the top of the GPU? So there's two 8-pin slots up here. But I've done a bit of digging around, and then thankfully the person that I bought this second card off of, and this is the card which was in the box you saw in the video earlier on, I was advised by that person to try and power this straight off of the board. So after doing a little bit of digging in my PSU's supply cables, I came across this lovely little cable. So it has Molexes where I can actually put them onto the board, and I'll show you that now. So I actually have two extras. So here's your main power from your PSU, then you have one here, this is for Molex, and one here. So you can actually apply more power, or you can take power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put this in here, okay, and then, because this has two lovely Molexes here, these are both going to go into the bottom of the card as long as they'll fit. In other words, will they stretch across to here? Now if it's this way around, I don't see why not. So it's just going to fit up. So I may actually need to raise the motherboard up. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but not a great tragedy. So it may mean me going out and getting two more of these, so I can raise the motherboard all the way up, because these cables still have the limitation in length, and there's no point me searching half of the galaxy to try and spend $5,000 on two of these which are double the length. It's just not worth the effort. And of course, the longer the length of a cable, the slower it is and the more power it draws. It just becomes extremely inefficient when I could just raise this up. So anyway, there's a little bit of an insight for you there. So by the time I finish this at the end of the video, I'll probably have this thing on the other box. So the box the motherboard came in, so that's the GPU box. I'll put the motherboard box underneath this, and that will rise it up, and that will give me enough for my two GPUs so far, and then of course this cable here. Now when I get my third cable, by that point I probably would have got a lot more of these, and they'll be sort of twice, or if not 3 times the length of this. So we'll be able to achieve the full 6 GPU, or maybe even more. But I'm honestly thinking that I either need to go to a 1200 or maybe 2 1000s. For those of you out there who are miners already and think I'm doing everything wrong, great, put it in the comment section below and let me know. But I know that this setup will work as it is. It's just as you get to more, what I'm finding is what the other beginners who are watching this video for the advice on it is, what some professional miners put their videos out on, it doesn't always transfer into what we thought it would. So they're saying, so we put these many GPUs here, you plug this into here and this, but they don't tell you about the issues that you face, and they don't go through it. They've got all the exact cables and everything else because they've been doing it forever. And they may send you links, but those links are either out of stock, no longer in business, etc., etc., no longer made. So I'm looking at what can you do by sourcing individual parts, both new, old, current, not so much, and we're going to get somewhere with that. So what have I done since? I put the hard drive in, which is the USB. Here we go, so my 64 gig stick. God knows whether that's going to work there, because I know that 2 of these ports, I think it's these 2 white ones, they're just literally power for this board. I've attached the heatsink here. I was going to use a very, very expensive water cooled one, but unless I'm using like an i7 and making the CPU mine as well, which you can do, guys, for some currencies they only use CPUs for mining, so that is a great benefit, and I will use that on my next rig. But for this one, I'm just going to use this. This is with the new Intel stock heatsink. So what I'm going to do next is stop it here and then add in the power unit, plug everything in, and then I'll explain again, which makes sense with what I've just gone through. Okay guys, so this is the final part of this video. Basically now, after changing a cable or two, I've got power to the motherboard, the risers below, and then the top of the GPU, which is where I just had to have a few cable changes. Now, previously I did mention that I was going to rise up the motherboard, but I don't need to do that anymore because you can probably notice that there's no power unit down here. I've moved it up and above. So I got creative. I used a couple of zip ties and I've moved it up here. So I've got access to the power switch, absolutely fine. Access to the power here, just plug that straight in. So all I need to do really now is to plug a HDMI cable into either one of the GPUs and set the BIOS up, set the motherboard to mining mode, and install the bootable Windows 10. Then once I've done that, it will be downloading MinerGate, and then I can just get it mining. And yeah, then it's pretty much done, guys. So this is as simple as it gets. Now this is obviously a setup for 6 GPUs, but this power unit turned out to only have 3 outlets, so 3 dual outlets, and each of these cards need about 2. These cards have 8 pins, and the 4 gigs or lower have about 3 pins. So it really depends on what it is that you're using. But if I want to expand, which I most certainly will, I have all of this area to be able to fill up. So I can quite easily erect another 2 GPUs up here, put a another PSU down here, so one of these boxes down here, and then probably levitate another 2 GPUs literally underneath the top 2. So I'll have 2 here, and then I can actually put 2 right next to this PSU up top, if not 3 all the way down, with 1 to the side or something. So this will become a bit of a creative build, but it's a lot of hashing power right here. This is 2 8GB GPUs, so hopefully it can mine me some Ethereum for the very long haul, and hopefully it won't be too loud. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. This has literally been an explanation of parts, how to put them together, and then general progress for something which to me really turned out to be a bit of a simple build, but with a few minor hiccups, of which we've covered. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'll try to respond as quickly as possible and hopefully help you out with it. The next video will be me doing the software. Thanks guys for watching.